A 3,500-year-old Egyptian obelisk stands at 69 feet tall in New York City. The 220-ton obelisk was carved from a single piece of stone from Aswan in Upper Egypt. Upon completion, ancient Egyptian engineers transported it to Heliopolis. Obelisks symbolize the living deity's absolute power, energy, immortality, duality, and balance. The Central Park's obelisk is one of two obelisks Pharaoh Thutmose III placed at the gate of the Temple of the Sun in ancient Heliopolis, east of the modern-day city of Cairo. Heliopolis is considered one of the most ancient Egyptian cities and the worship hub of the sun god Ra. The second obelisk, also called Cleopatra's Needle, stands on the Thames Embankment in London, England. In 12 BC, the Egyptian queen Cleopatra brought the two obelisks from the ancient city of Heliopolis to Alexandria. Since then, the two obelisks have been known as Cleopatra's Needles. The Greek engineers added bronze crabs to support the damaged bases to erect the two giant obelisks. In Greek mythology, crabs are linked with Apollo, the sun god. In 10 BC, Emperor Augustus transported two obelisks to Rome. By the 17th century, obelisks were placed in front of many Catholic churches in Rome to symbolize the church's power and authority. Even Vatican City has its 4,500-year-old obelisk at the center of St. Peter's Square. Today, Rome is the Egyptian obelisk capital of the world. In 1877, while the Egyptians struggled to raise money to construct the Suez Canal, Khedive Ismail Pasha, the monarch of Egypt, donated the two Cleopatra's Needles to England and the United States. The Americans spent $100,000 to transport the obelisk to Central Park, and $18,000 was paid to the Englishmen who persuaded Ismail Pasha to donate it to America. The 9,000 miles to Central Park was a complex engineering operation. Unlike the British, who secured the obelisk inside a steel cylinder and used a tugboat to tow it to England, the Americans used a specially modified steamer to transport the obelisk across the ocean to New York. The American engineers used parallel beams supported by roll boxes and a pile driver engine. The engineers loaded the obelisk through the ship's hull with cannonballs. It took almost 3 weeks to sail from Egypt to America, and nearly 4 months from when the ancient obelisk arrived at the banks of the Hudson River until it reached its final destination in the middle of Central Park. In January 1881, Cleopatra's Needle moved to its new home in the heart of New York City. The Liberty Bell is one of the primary symbols in the United States. It's an icon of American freedom, justice, and equality. Inscribed on one side of the Liberty Bell, "Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." Leviticus 25, verse 10. This inscription has inspired abolitionists, women's advocates, and civil rights leaders to stand for freedom, justice, and equality for over 2 centuries. It remains just as appropriate and influential a symbol of America as ever. On the top of Egypt's Gebel Moses, God spoke those words to Moses, instructing him to spread liberty everywhere after Egyptian Israelites had been freed from 400 years of slavery in Egypt and guided them to their promised land. This verse was instrumental in formulating ideas about the new American Republic and the adoption of a liberal state. It remains inspirational for freedom of all in America and exposes the dark side of slavery. On one day in April 1775, the Liberty Bell rang, announcing the beginning of the American Revolution against the British at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. On July 8, 1776, from the top of the tower of Independence Hall of Philadelphia, the Liberty Bell rang again, calling the American citizens to hear the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. Later, the Liberty Bell's engraving inspired the abolitionists to end slavery in America. Essentially, the bell's inscription became the central message of their cause to abolish slavery, which was abolished in America in 1865. Martin Luther King, American civil rights leader, often used the Egyptian Israelites' Exodus story to inspire the African American community to always strive for racial equality. In 1915, the Justice Bell, a replica of the Liberty Bell without the crack, toured the United States, drawing attention to the lack of equality in America. As a result, in 1920, the American Congress approved the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote. Out of ancient Egypt came God's words that inspired Americans to seek freedom, justice, and equality. Those words are still potent reminders of the importance of liberty for all.